be in favor of personal property. His understanding of the mission of law enabled him to recognize how the Bureau of Land Management was undermining the principles of liberty found in the Constitution, and how the Bureau of Land Management's policies had converted the law into an instrument of plunder. In regard to property rights, the BLM has created a systemized plundering. Besides its unconstitutional mandatory terms and conditions and fees, the heavy fist of the Bureau of Land Management had not yet reached his ranch in Arizona like it had the Bundys in Nevada, or the Hage family in Nevada, or the Hammond family in Oregon. He was in good standing with the Bureau of Land Management. So the question is, why did he find himself in Oregon then? The first great commandment is to love the Lord thy God with all thy soul. The second great commandment is like unto the first. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. In his journey of daily diligence, discovering true principles of liberty, him honoring himself to draw that line in the sand to say, this is not okay. These are my rights. He would look and watch for other ranchers on how he could assist them, teach them, and then help them defend their right. When he came across the Hammond story, he was overcome with disgust. He never tolerated bullies. Being a God-fearing, principled man, he could not in good conscience just sit home and do nothing. So on January 2nd, he found himself driving the 20-hour drive to Oregon to participate in a peaceful protest to lay flowers at the doorstep of the Hammond family. It was not until he arrived that it became very clear that he needed to stay long-term.
All what's happening over in Bend, Oregon with that ranching family over there, the Hammond family, and I'm pretty upset with what the BLM has done to them. Actually, I'm really angry. They had a prescribed burn that was allowed, got off onto 100 acres, burned 100 acres of BLM. Just rangeland, you know, 100 acres. They'll come back just as green next year as ever. They threw him in jail. They fined him tremendous amount of fines, and now it looks like they're facing 5 more years in prison. These are real lives. These are real people. By dang, I'm angry about it. America, how long are we going to put up with this type of stuff? You know, it's time to stop. You know, here in this area, BLM's good to the ranchers here. They don't have a problem here out on the strip. Some good, decent people there. But the question is, then, are they doing good? The question is, should they have the power to do good? If they've got the power to do good, they got the power to do bad. If they got the power to help, they have the power to destroy. They shouldn't have the power, period. Because look what they're doing over to that family, the Hammond family. It's outrageous. And I'm pretty dang angry about it. I'd like to use a lot stronger language, but my daughters, my wife will probably watch this, my mom, and so I'll refrain.
That video was taken before he went to Oregon. He recorded all of his liberty standing movements on his YouTube channel. I invite you to go view it so that you can get to know who he was. If they have the power to do good, they have the power to do bad. And they shouldn't have the power, period. After all due process measures had been exhausted and ignored weeks before the rally, in hopes to assist this Hammond family, my dad and some other courageous men took a stand against a superpower tyrannical government. I'm going to play a clip from a press conference while they were in Oregon that will show you their true motives and reason for being there.
I'm a rancher in northern Arizona. I'm here to support the Hammonds. There's been a lot of words that have been said here. I see some eyes that start to kind of glaze over a little bit. Maybe I can bring it down to a little more emotional level or a human level. Each one of you here today are important. Individually, each one of you are important. Not collectively, we're talking about you as an individual, as a human being. The Hammond family are human beings. They're individuals. They have loved ones. They have children, grandchildren. This is real. This affects real lives. And so that's why we're here today. And if our federal government would have abided by the Constitution, the supreme law of the land, we would have never have gotten here. And so let me just kind of come to a simple level of why this is so bad at the federal level. Our founding fathers had escaped from tyranny. They believed in freedom. And so when they set up our government, they separated the powers, didn't they? And we all know what they are: executive, legislative, and judicial branches. We know those three branches of power. Well, what has happened to 1/3 of our landmass? Do you know that the federal government owns and controls 1/3 of this nation? Let me put that in perspective. You need to put in the country of Germany, and put in France, Spain, Portugal, Italy. You better throw in Great Britain too. And then you're getting about the same landmass as what the federal government says that they own and control. And they say they have complete legislative power whatsoever. They have taken it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has upheld it. Yes, they have complete power whatsoever over 1/3 of this nation. Now, let me explain it simply as I can, as I try to stumble over my words here, is that for myself as a rancher, my ranch is in northern Arizona, a bureaucrat behind the desk can write a statute regarding me, my ranch. It has the force and effect of law. This bureaucrat is not accountable to me. We have not elected him then. Now, if I get contrary to that statute, there's a federal ranger with a gun that can enforce that. And if it goes from there, I am brought into a federal court. Neither the law enforcement, the federal ranger, has been elected by us, the people here. They are not under the power of the recall. Neither the bureaucrat that wrote the statute, neither the law enforcement that enforces it, and now I am hauled into a federal court. All three branches of power under one head with no representation. Did we not, as Americans, face this issue some 200 years ago? Don't we remember that phrase? Taxation without representation. So now here we are, control without representation. 1/3 of our landmass. It's an empire within our own country. Unaccountable, unelected. The real power is in the bureaucracies. And so that's kind of the simple part of it. It's about family. It's about my family. It's about the Hammond family. I've spoken to many ranchers in Utah, in Nevada, in Arizona. They are all feeling the same thing. They're all feeling this oppression that is coming down upon them. Their livelihood is threatened, being taken away. Their ranches are being regulated out of business. And so this is real. These families are real. They're not trying to cause problems. They're food producers. They help make our country self-reliant, free, independent. Do you realize that you have to go back to about 1955 to get as low as the motherhead count as we have right now in the United States? Have any of you ate a steak lately? Do you know the price of that? That goes way up. If we had more demand, if we had more production, we would ship out more, we would feed more, we would be self-reliant as a country. These are good people. They produce, they add to our country. They do not take it away. I want to say one more thing about here, what we're doing. Every one of you that says this is an occupation until their demands are met, you misunderstand. We're not making demands. We're not making demands. We're here to work. These buildings here belong to Harney County. These are Harney County public lands, the state of Oregon. This is theirs. This is their land. This is their state. It's theirs. And so we've come here to work. We've not come here to sit as children and stamp our feet and demand that certain things are met. We're going to go to work. We're going to try to help restore these ranchers that have lost their ranches back to them. We're going to legally go go to the records. We're going to search out these ranchers. Over 100 ranchers have lost their ranches here in this very area, this very county, have been pushed off. We would like to see them return to their ranches, ranch again, log again, live again as free people. And so we're here to try to help that happen. We're going to go to work. We're not going to just sit down here and twiddle our thumbs. We've got a lot to do, and I appreciate you being here. I'm just a simple hick, and doing the best I can. And I love this country. I love my kids. I love my wife. I love my family. And if we lose freedom, what shall they do? I want my children to experience real freedom, breathe free. And, thank you.
Setting the example to Americans, the proper way to exercise your First Amendment right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. When dealing with an abusive, powerful system, the options for redress are very limited, and if waiting for permission from your abuser, you are never going to get it.
Right.
Why was direct action needed, such as occupying the refuge? I'm going to quote Martin Luther King Jr. when he was incarcerated for participating in civil disobedience. He said, "Isn't negotiation a better path? You are quite right in calling for negotiation. Indeed, this is the very purpose for direct action. Non-violent direct action seeks to create such a crisis and foster such a tension that a community which has constantly refused to negotiate is forced to confront the issue. It seeks so to dramatize the issue that it can no longer be ignored. There is a type of constructive, nonviolent, direct action which is necessary for growth." Wouldn't you say this is exactly what my father accomplished? Yes. Magically, rural Burns, Oregon ended up on national news. Because much of the 21st century has fallen victim to Ezra Taft Benson's fear in that a lack of knowledge would destroy the people, the mainstream media successfully characterized my dad and these other courageous cowboys, who were the leaders of the Malheur Refuge occupation, as anti-government, gun-flaunting domestic terrorists. My dad and these other cowboys had become the aggressor in the eyes of the public who had not done their due diligence to qualify themselves to successfully be able to discern if these cowboys' civil disobedience was indeed on liberty's side. Those who truly were the aggressors thrived on this lack of knowledge of the public and demonized. This demonization was a powerful tool for the wolves in sheep's clothing. The reality is that these cowboys were fearlessly upholding the rule of law in a competent, God-fearing, virtuous way. Much of America who have been spoon-fed this false narrative were deceived. This form of crafty deception is no new thing to humanity. That brings me to Benjamin Franklin's famous remarks when he said to a missus, after being asked what they accomplished in the Philadelphia Convention, he replied to the lady, "A republic, madam, if we can keep it." What did he mean, if we can keep it? Think for a moment the task the framers were trying to undertake in establishing a free society. If you put the three tasks out there, they are so obvious they're hardly worth mentioning. Yet the third one, the one that's our duty, is the one that we forget. One, obviously they had to win freedom, and through much blood and suffering, we accomplished that. Two, this one was harder, but with divine help, they won freedom and ordered freedom, giving it a political structure framework so that it might last. And they did that. The third task, the one that we forget, the one that is our job, is the sustaining of freedom, or in the founders' words, perpetuating the institutions of freedom. The notion of sustaining freedom is one that is hardly discussed by our American leaders today. It has been said by one activist how there has been no serious address on the topic by any American president for the last 50 years. So, how do we sustain freedom? John Adams put it this way: only a virtuous people are capable of freedom. Now, it's important to recognize how freedom is not the permission to do what you want, but it is the power to do what you ought. This power is often referred to as a change of heart in the scriptures. Freedom requires virtue. We can see clearly how this has gone today. When the build-up towards the Clinton impeachment, there was a famous New York Times article that said, "Character does not matter. All that matters in a president today is competence." This is just one tiny example of the widespread dismissal of the key element of freedom. Virtue plus competence equals the perpetuation of freedom. You cannot have one without the other. Are we not admonished to add knowledge to virtue? One historian called it, or likened it unto, the 800-pound gorilla in the room that is so obvious yet hardly mentioned. For the framers, virtue, which in its Latin root means courage, virtue includes everything like honesty, loyalty, patriotism. If you want to do it in modern times, Google's definition of virtue is behavior showing high moral standard. The scriptures call this righteousness. I'm calling it a habit of the heart. My dad's habit of the heart, this ordinary man, was one of virtue and competence. Virtue became his habit of the heart as byproduct of his daily diligence in the things that developed his mind, his body, and his spirit. These practices for him became habitual. Remember, Benjamin Franklin said, "Virtue is not secure until its practices become habitual." While a nation can lay down the structures of liberty, and it might be there for centuries, the spirit of liberty has to be alive from generation to generation. That spirit of liberty is not laid down forever. If a generation arises that does not understand liberty as a habit of the heart, then freedom is in danger of being lost. Might I suggest that there is a corruption of customs? The best constitution in the world, if there is a habitual corruption of customs that is in the bedding in which the Constitution rests, it will eventually become subverted. It will still have the same name, but it will be a different reality. Each generation has to gain a testimony of these eternal principles, understand liberty. If that testimony is not acquired through daily diligence, then a corruption of customs cannot but help be byproduct. We all know the old cliche, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. And alas, isn't it true? Taking that admonition to heart, wouldn't it be our duty to the rising generation to waste and wear out our lives in bringing to light all the hidden things of darkness, to hopefully avoid this corruption of customs and their future slavery? Now, here's where I'm going to get a little politically incorrect. First, do you elevate yourself above others? Are you virtuous? Are you humble? Have you made your daily diligence to develop your mind, body, and spirit as your habit of the heart? Next, are you competent in regard to true principles of liberty? Can you discern between anti-liberty and liberty agendas? People who are running for office, legislation, bills, etc. And if you have acquired this competence or wisdom because you cannot give that which you do not have you given much of your energy to the rising generation to help mentor and coach them so that they too might be able to discern? Amen. Do we have some repenting to do? I do. I invite you with me to take that courageous look at yourself, because we only have control of our own use of agency. Do the work to improve your situation, and then you will be of greater good. You will have more power to fight this battle for the cause of liberty. We can do hard things. After my father's murder, I was abruptly and horrifically awakened to the awful state that our nation is in. I want you to know that I am evaluating my life. I am petitioning my Maker and doing the work to move forward. It feels out of control, especially when my body's grieving. Despite that, I know that I have a higher power that sustains me. We have been admonished, I love this photo, to be a light unto the world. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all. Might I suggest that this admonition includes a little more than baking bread for a sick friend or teaching Sunday school? Might I suggest that this admonition to let our light shine includes obtaining the word and then actively participating in doing the work to see that no anti-liberty individual gets into a position of authority. Franklin D. Roosevelt once said, in politics, nothing happens by accident. If it happens, you can bet it was planned that way. He, being the only U.S. president who had served 4 terms, was in a good position to make such a statement. It is important to remember how there have been Hitlers and Stalins and Caesars and Alexander the Greats throughout history. Why should we assume that there is no such men out there today with a perverted lust for power? And if these men happen to be billionaires, is it not possible that they would use men like Hitler as pawns to seize power for themselves? Let's return to the concept of how this nation and its people are under a covenant with God. The Declaration of Independence, it's a 3-way covenant. First, we acknowledge God and we honor and respect Him. We must do this. The progress from righteousness to wickedness of each former civilization, if studied, one would see clearly how a nation such as the United States of America could end up in utter destruction if divine warnings are not heeded. Simply put, we will be destroyed if we do not return to our God.
Amen. Amen.
If we do not repent, take that courageous look within ourselves. Become competent, habitual, virtuous people, and warn our neighbor to do the same. This is the key to survival. We must return to the basics. Before we can truly be successful and most effective in this cause, we must have our own life in order. We cannot give that which we do not have. Food for the hungry cannot come from the empty shelf. Money for the broke cannot come from the empty bank. Physical strength cannot come from the weak and frail body. Knowledge cannot come from the unlearned. Spiritual strength and discernment cannot come from the spiritually starved. We must do the hard work to get all of these elements of our life in order. I invite you to do these things. We can do hard things. This is what my father did. This was his legacy. This is what enabled him to be the powerful voice that America now knows him to be. The road to discipleship, which leads to a liberty-deserving people, is hard work, and we can do hard things. After my father's assassination, this hashtag came about. I just love it because this ordinary man, Arizona rancher, this no-namer, can be an inspiration to all of us. He had great power, and so can we if we draw from the right well. I know that I'll see my father again in the flesh, and he will be clothed in the robes of righteousness. For his habit of the heart was one of God-fearing virtue and competence. We are in the business of changing hearts. Everyone has a habit of the heart, either one for virtue or for vice. It is my prayer that my habit of the heart and that your habit of the heart will be one of virtue, humility, moral fortitude, knowledge of correct principles of liberty, repentance, God-fearing, that you might be empowered by your Creator to do His work. I'm going to play this last video. It is a powerful video of my father sharing his sentiments.
It may cost you everything, but that's okay. I want to kind of end a little bit with a story. Christmas morning, Christmas Eve, there was a gentleman that I have great respect for called George Washington. He crossed the Delaware with his soldiers, and he took on the Hessians, the British Hessians, and he lost not one soldier to armed conflict. There was 150 that were wounded. That he did lose two that died before they even got there. 2 men froze to death before they arrived there, and the bloody foot tracks could be traced in the snow. Now, why is my life more valuable than their life? They gave their all, didn't even get the chance to fire their musket. They died frozen. I'm sure they had loved ones, mothers, fathers, and probably children that their dreams were cut off, but they gave their all for this freedom. And why do we reap the fruits and rewards of their sacrifices, and then when it comes down to this time that we don't stand up? Will you be able to hold your head up? Will I be able to hold my head up when we meet together? If I don't stand, I can't. They gave everything, and so many people have given everything. It's time to stand. I want anybody that hears this, please pull your courage to the sticking point. Strengthen your resolve, stiffen your back. Let's stand. It may cost you your life. That's okay. Just like I said to that cowboy, we all die. Die for something good. Let your children, your posterity, know where you stood, where you stand. Don't disappoint your ancestors. This is the day.
thank you for hearing what I had to say and for honoring my father and honoring my family. We stand with you, and I'd like to now bring and invite my mother to the stage, Jeanette Finicum. Thank you. Just hearing his voice. Isn't he just cute? I see him in my mind's eye. First, I would like to express my gratitude. Sorry, it was his voice that threw me. I'd like to express my gratitude to all of you for accepting us here, for inviting us, for housing us and feeding us. You've been so gracious and so kind, and we so appreciate the opportunity to be able to come and share this message with you and share my husband with you. And we thank you for your support. Then I have to apologize because we're going to have to buzz because our plane leaves in like an hour and a half. So leaves by 6, and I guess we have to fly to the airport to get there on time. So I'm just going to say a few words and not the presentation that I prepared. My husband went to Oregon to support the Hammonds. That was the reason in the beginning. In John, it says to love thy neighbor. And it doesn't matter if your neighbor is in Oregon or if they're on the same block that you live. We are the United States of America, and we're all neighbors. I've heard said to us, why are you here? This is our county, this is our place, this is our problem. We don't want outsiders messing with our problem. But the Constitution was for everyone in this country, in every state, in every county, in every city, every person. And so my husband felt that they were his neighbor and that they needed support and help. And they needed people to stand with them even though they were afraid to stand for themselves. That's why they went ahead and just submitted and went into jail the second time for the same crime. How can we let that happen in this country? I'm very proud of my husband. I miss him terribly. But we know that we will see him again, and I will be with him again through Jesus Christ. I want to read real quickly part of what I prepared. They're journal entries in my husband's journal. Just give you a little glimpse of what was important to him.